Good morning, everyone. I will take you from a happy money and happy mortgages to a happy new world. We're going to have this plenary session about, and we entitled it, Snapshots from Silicon Valley and Cambridge. You know, at FundForum, we love to talk about new technologies, about investment trends, innovations. And today you're gonna hear all along this conference about Bitcoin, blockchain, and so on and so forth. But this morning we're gonna go a little bit beyond, or maybe too much beyond. And we're gonna talk about areas where national security agencies, science foundations are really investing that will probably totally disrupt our whole world. So we're gonna talk about two areas. One of them is called quantum computing. And the other one, which is really connected, it's artificial intelligence, but I'll come back to that in a second. Quantum computing is this strange quantum mechanical phenomenon called superposition that allow us to solve very, very complicated problems and gives us so much powerful machines, much, much powerful than what we have today in our IT technology, which is the binary one, you know, the 0 and 1. So the question becomes, you know, the applications are so humongous. And for example, area like encryption of data, security. When people talk to me about blockchain, they say it's very secure. You know, I think, you know, when we'll talk about it later on, you'll see there is a little bit of a twist to that. So all the applications, and luckily enough, we have with us Dr. Mark Jackson, who's coming from Cambridge Quantum Computing. And he's part of their Arrow team that looks at the readiness of quantum and its application to many industries, and obviously to our industry, the financial industries. Connected to that is, what is the next generation of artificial intelligence? You know, we talk about machine learning, but if you put this engine behind it, this quantum engine, what happened to artificial intelligence? The science of creating machines like act, that we want them to act like human beings. You know, in terms of speech recognition, in terms of learning, in terms of decision-making, and so on and so forth. And here, millions of existential questions about, you know, those machines, what kind of jobs they will take, what kind of skill set we will have to have as humans, and as these self-optimizing machines continue to improve, how they will cohabitate with us. So we're fortunate also to have with us Dr. Manoj Saxena, who's the chairman of Cognitive Scale, a company that aims at extending human capabilities, human cognitive capabilities, by pairing them with machines. It's kind of a reverse to understand. And he's the first general manager of IBM business unit, which helps company harness the capabilities and this powerful Watson's machine. So both Mark and Manoj will present to us these subjects in what they call letters. So the first letters will be with Manoj, who will, welcome to both Manoj and Mark, by the way. Manoj will present to us his letter, which is entitled, "The Future of Finance is Augmented Artificial Intelligence and the New Collar Worker." So Manoj, I would like to ask you to come up and present it to us.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me here, and it's my honor to talk to you for the next few minutes about what I believe is going to be an incredible transformation over the next 3 to 5 years. I tend to want to look at the world in the next 3 to 5 years because that's more practical rather than 20 or 50 years out. So I want to just start with a basic level set. You know, it's been 6 years since I started commercializing Watson. There's a lot of scar tissue that I've collected in the last 6 years, and some of these are sort of lessons in this letter. One of them I want to start with is AI today stands for both artificially inflated, you know, I want to take some air out of that balloon, and AI also stands today for amazing innovations. Both of them are happening right now. There's a lot of hype and BS in the market about AI, but even if 1,000th of it was really put to use in your industries, it's going to radically transform it. Because the narrative for AI is being written by either Hollywood or by, I call it, glue-sniffing marketers from large companies who have no idea as to how these things can really not just automate a job, but augment a job. And AI today is very poorly implemented, and understood. Number one, people think it's either going to kill me or it's going to take my job away. The reality is only about 20% of potential of AI is for automating a job. There's a much bigger potential in augmenting and amplifying someone's job. Second, big data and analytics are AI. They are just sensors. Just because I can sense more doesn't mean I get more intelligent. So big data analytics just give you more sensing. It doesn't give you more intelligence. Third, machine learning, natural language processing, and deep learning are AI. This is like saying a clutch or a steering wheel is a car. These are components of an AI. Fourth, robotic process automation is AI. Robotic process automation is about automating manual tasks that are not judgment and decision-based, and they don't learn, okay? And they are useful, but only about 10, 20% of the jobs that a brain can do within 3 seconds, you can automate it. But there's much more work and value that you can do in other areas. Fifth, data science alone can solve problems, right? There will be hundreds of walking dead in the AI space in the next 2 years, because people are running around building models. Building a model is like publishing a web page, okay? Just because you can publish a web page doesn't mean you have an enterprise-grade business process or a business application. You have to thread those pages together, orchestrate it, create some business value out of it. So there is a data science world and there is a software development world, which today don't bridge, and that's one of the problems we're going after. And the last, which is my favorite, is 99% of AI companies today are not enterprise ready. It's one thing to say it's a dog or a cat using a deep learning model. It's another thing to say, I declined the claim and the patient died, I'm getting sued for $50 million, but I can't explain to you why my AI told me to, right? So there's a lot of issues. When I say artificially inflated, it's things like that, which we've been addressing at Cognitive Scale over the last 5 years. So what is AI? One part of AI is the science of making intelligent machines or programs. The last 3 words are the most important. They learn from patterns. Everything we've built in the last 75 years in IT was rules-based. Rules don't learn. Patterns learn. And this is patterns across text, documents, audio, video, all kinds of information, because computers today are nothing but giant calculators. Okay, they just process numbers. They don't process, why can't I just point my phone to that and say, tell me who's the manufacturer of the projector? Because an image is non-computable. AI starts doing that. And in essence, they're helping you do sense, think, and act. That's the loop. It's a little digital brain that you're building. So AI has been mostly in the academic world. And when I started Watson, people thought it was natural language processing. Then they thought it was Alexa and Siri. Then they thought it's chatbots. Then they thought it's machine learning toolkits. Now they think it's robotic process automation. The reality is AI is about digital-powered businesses. Just like you have self-driving cars, you'll have self-driving business processes. Processes that learn with every data and every touch point. That, to me, is the essence and the exciting part of AI. The other part is, this is an incredibly important chart. What does AI do in the enterprise? It lets you take all available data, gets all possible actions out of it for a researcher or a trader or a portfolio manager, and learn from it continuously. That's the essence of what an AI does, those 3 steps. Understand all available information, get personalized insights to every worker so they can make a better decision, and learn from the actions. So AI today is either man versus machine or human versus machine, and human and machine. We tend to focus on the right side, which is I build Iron Man Jarvis suits. That's what I tell my daughters. I'm building the operating system for Iron Man Jarvis suit. And it's not on the left side, which there is value, but I believe the massive, Google CEO said, AI will be as important as fire and electricity in the invention of, of evolution of mankind, and I think he's right. And to me, that is just like the steam engine amplified our arms and legs, AI is going to amplify our brains, and I think that's the exciting potential. And if you look at financial services, every process from customer engagement, risk and compliance, portfolio management, all of these that are, why can't I listen to an audio statement from an earnings report, and it can start giving me tone and detection and context as to what exactly is happening and match it against analyst reports. So what we are talking about is a whole new scale of processes that can be augmented with greater intelligence, so all of you can make better decisions and all of you can make the world a better place and make money. I love that doing well by doing good that the panel just talked about. So there is going to be a massive disruption with AI. There's no doubt. So I look at this as a simple 2x2 matrix, job requiring low cognitive skills versus high cognitive skills, routine versus non-routine. And I don't have the time to go into it since I need to wrap up in 1 more minute here, but this is sort of the roadmap If you are in those red bucket jobs, I think that's pretty much going to be gone in the next 3 to 5 years. But there's a lot of opportunity for augmentation. And this has happened with every industry. Every new technology that came about always has disrupted jobs, and it'll continue to do so. These are jobs that didn't exist. 30 years ago, we didn't have a Zumba instructor, right? We didn't have a genetic counselor. Today, we have social media managers, we have hydraulic fracking engineers, you have YouTube content creators. 10 years ago, we didn't have a Lyft driver, okay? We didn't have an Airbnb host. There is a whole bunch of new jobs that are coming about, and in your industry, these are some examples. I don't have the time to go. I can spend an hour just on this topic, but there are technologies like quantamental research managers, people who take quantitative and fundamentals and use machines to make decisions. There will be AI explainers to regulators, okay? People who will explain why and how did I use AI to drive better decisions, okay? There will be AI compliance and ethics officers. There will be people who will do, competitions online for building AI models and applications. So anyways, with that, I'm going to wrap up and pass it over to my next colleague.
Well, thank you, Manoj. That was the easy part. So now I will pass it on to Mark, who will introduce to us his letter, which is entitled, How Quantum Computing Will Transform the Whole World, in all the industries, and especially the investment industry as such. So, Mark, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you. Super. So thank you. It's a great honor to be here. So you're all experts in quantum physics, right? So I can just skip that part. OK, good. Good. No. So I will very briefly describe what a quantum computer is. If this computer will work. Good. Thanks, you. Yes. So the basic idea is this. A normal digital computer works on bits, which are just ones and zeros. But a quantum computer replaces this with quantum bits, or qubits. And a quantum bit can be a 1 and a 0 at the same time. So this is the quantum superposition that was mentioned earlier. And the strength in this is that it can do 2 calculations at once. But if you had 2 qubits, you could do 4 calculations at once. And 3 quantum bits could do 8 calculations at once, and so forth. So you see, you get this exponential increase in the speed. Now, this isn't just a faster computer. It's a fundamentally different type. And in fact, if there's one thing that I would like you to take away from this talk, it is this. It is that this will impact everything. Every area of science and technology will be impacted by quantum computers or a closely related technology in quantum. So you can pick out where you are. It might happen to be finance, but it might happen to be somewhere else. Everything will be affected by this. And so this is really something that everyone should pay attention to. In fact, this is a small sampling of the number of industries that are getting into it. So it's not just academics or people in the quantum technology realm. You see everyone from banks to pharmaceutical industries to Volkswagen is getting into this. So I have a few minutes to describe a few specific examples. And I'm going to just pick these 3 examples here. So one is machine learning, which has been addressed. Another is encryption and communication. And then finally, quantum chemistry. So the normal way that machine learning is done is based on probabilities, because what it's doing is it's constantly searching for what is the most likely answer in AI or machine learning. But in quantum physics, this is actually replaced with something called an amplitude. And you can think of this just as an arrow. Amplitude is really kind of a fancy name for just an arrow. And the reason this is so important is because arrows can add together, but sometimes adding 2 arrows, it depends on the direction. And so they can add together constructively like this, or if the arrows are the opposite direction, they can cancel each other out. And so this leads to much more sophisticated decision making. And so a lot of the things that you would do, like portfolio management or optimization, would be done in a much more sophisticated way using quantum computers. The second area is encryption and security. And I have some kind of depressing news for you. 99% of online encryption is in this top category, which is vulnerable to hacking by quantum computers. And a few years ago, when people didn't take quantum computers so seriously, this wasn't seen as much of a problem. But now that we know that they're here, and it's simply a matter of when, not if, quantum computers will be powerful enough to hack this, it's really urgent that people transform the infrastructure that they have protecting this. So talk to your CTO and ask, what are we doing to protect against the quantum threat? And if they say nothing after you fire them, you can discuss how to resolve this, because this really is an urgent threat. So one way to protect against this is, so there's some good news here, is that quantum technologies aren't just a threat. It's actually also a way of protecting against the quantum hacking. And so there's actually a completely hack-proof means of communication called quantum key distribution. And so this is it's a really incredible technology, and it's not just a safer way of communicating. It's actually completely hack-proof. If there's an eavesdropper, you would actually know immediately that they were eavesdropping, and you could cease the communication. And so finally, quantum chemistry. And this might seem like kind of an oddly specific thing to be focused on, and what would it have to do with finance? But this is actually fundamental to so many of the technologies that we have. And the reason behind this is it's very difficult for a digital computer to analyze molecular structures. You can do it easily for small molecules, but for a big one, like the one on the right here, classical computers completely choke. But quantum computers can do this very, very efficiently. In fact, 40 years ago, this was the original motivation behind quantum computers. And so being able to determine this structure has the following advantage. Right now, we can start to take molecules, and we could give the computer the molecular structure, and it can tell us the properties of that molecule. But eventually, what the goal is to reverse this. And you could say, give me a molecule that has these properties. And the reason this would be so important is you could design a personalized medicine for someone based on their condition. You could design something which treats their condition but minimizes the side effects. It would also be used in creating more efficient fertilizers. So right now, 2% of the world's energy supply is used just to make fertilizers. And so being able to reduce this with a more efficient process, we know would greatly affect things. And then finally, with energies. So coming up with a more energy-efficient battery or solar technology is something that quantum computers might be able to do. So one thing that I would just like to close on, this is an illustration of how much progress the industry has made just in the past 11 months. So in the beginning of my talk, I mentioned a qubit is sort of the measure of the power, because every qubit doubles the power of a quantum computer. Last July, Google had the most powerful quantum computer with a 9-qubit machine. Then in October, Intel had a 17-qubit machine. Then a month later, IBM announced 50. And then in March, Google announced a 72-qubit machine. So every qubit doubles the power. So this shows how much progress has been made just in the past 11 months. So if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what else will. So thank you very much.
Well, my head is spinning with all this stuff. OK, so we're going to take 15 minutes. I'm going to try to be smart, ask some intelligent questions about these two subjects. And we're going to ask one of you to come up and tell us what they understood from this whole thing. So let me start with the basics. I'm going to start with Manoj. And I'll probably ask you the same question, Mark. Why AI or quantum computing are all of a sudden, on everybody's mind? Is something changed? I've been hearing about this stuff for a long time. So what's new?
I think what we have seen is, I call it a super convergence of 6 big technologies. AI is not just machine learning. There are 6 things that are coming together at one time. It's cloud, mobile, social, big data, machine learning, blockchain. I'm not even including quantum computing in it. So there is this super convergence. In IT, at most, we had one shift. We went from client server to web, web to mobile. Now you got these 6 technologies that give you lots of data, they give you lots of computing power, and give you new algorithms that are being developed. So when you put them all together, it now gives you systems that learn continuously, both from data and from actions. And that's why, and people are worried about the disruption. The rate and scale at which industries are getting unbundled, I think, is the other part. So there's a technology piece, there is a business piece. And investors like me, I have a $100 million seed fund in AI. We are getting so much demand to put more and more money in. So there's technology part, there is a business part, and then there is a money part, all coming together.
I'm going to switch on you, Mark. I got,
OK.
the guy who presented blockchain to me a few months ago. I told him, what if we hack this freaking thing? And who's responsible? Well, he said it's unhackable. And what I heard today, you said, it makes me say,
Yeah, that's
well,
not true.
somebody will get this freaking quantum computing, and they will be emptying all the stuff we have in the blockchain. So
Yeah,
please,
no, it's actually no, it's actually funny you mentioned that. Many of you probably know that the value of Bitcoin actually decreased 10% this weekend because they were hacked yet again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't a quantum computer, but that shows you how vulnerable these things are. So yeah, this is actually the most common question that people ask me when I say I'm in the quantum computing field. They say, oh, so is Bitcoin or blockchain just useless? And the answer is no, but here's the issue. So there's two different issues. So the first is people sometimes mistakenly think we could just use a quantum computer to mine all the Bitcoin. And that's not true. And the reason is because we already have very efficient computers which mine. They're called GPUs. So we already have computers that do that very efficiently, and quantum computers would not do that very efficiently. So that's not the issue. But what the issue is what you just mentioned, is that the security behind cryptocurrencies is the normal type of security, which is vulnerable to quantum computers. And so you could just rewrite who owns that Bitcoin. And so that is a threat. Fortunately, there are means of protecting against this, which are being developed right now.
Thanks, Scott. So, I'm going to continue with you because I think I'm a programmer. I've written programs in the 80s and 90s. And when I think about what you've said, are we going to have to scrap it and rewrite the whole thing? What's...
So the good news is we won't have to scrap everything. So normal digital computers will always be needed because quantum computers are only good for a few things. So there's only a few certain algorithms that they can be used for. So what will most likely happen is that programs will sort of be hybrid programs. So a program will be written in something like C, and the normal C commands get sent to the CPU as normal. And then there will be special quantum commands which manipulate the qubits, and they operate on the QPU, the quantum processing unit, and that gets sent to the QPU. Yeah, so it will be some sort of hybrid model.
Yeah, so we'll have to adapt the architecture as well, the IT architecture. Well, Manoj, what's, in your view, the misconception about artificial intelligence? I think about, I tell you, I'm maybe a little bit paranoid. I say, if those machines become smarter than us, then it gets out of control. They will control us, we won't control them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to go that far, but what are the misconceptions?
I think I touched upon some of them, but one of my biggest concerns about artificial intelligence is CEOs and boards don't understand what it is. I think AI is too important to be left to the technologists. AI is a strategic business capability. It has to be. It's like saying I don't have power in my business, but I'm going to be a competitive business, or I don't have the web and I'm going to compete. So I think understanding the potential of AI as a business and strategic capability is probably the #1 issue. And even for this audience, I think really understanding how you do market research, how you construct portfolio ideas, how you then get feedback from the market, how do you support your customers, how do you comply with regulators. All of these core processes, when the internet came about, everything got webified, right? And now with AI, everything is going to get cognitized. It's going to become feedback-driven, self-learning systems. And I think that potential, if you understand, that's one part. The second part is the disruptive business models that can now be powered by AI. The world's largest taxi company doesn't own taxi today, Uber. The world's largest movie company, Netflix, doesn't own any movies. The world's largest hotel doesn't own any hotels, Airbnb. These are all brilliant technology companies that are engaging customers using AI and blockchain and cloud and mobile and big data and creating entirely new business models. So there will be a next generation asset managers, a next generation, if you look at insurance, companies like Lemonade, who are redefining, and if you look at banks, there are thousands of startups redefining every process. So I think in this industry, if you take away the regulations, there is a lot of pieces that people are going to start unbundling your business around. And I think understanding both of those, the business capability and the business disruption capability, are the two pieces I think that needs to be addressed.
Well, Mark, if I switch to you, we as a company, we are a financial institution. We're a bank, and we're essentially an IT company. So how should we change our thinking about getting prepared for quantum? When do we need to start? I mean, are there some signs, in the sky that will come up and say, now you go, and
Time to do it.
Yeah, it's time to do it now. No, so the first thing is security and encryption, as I mentioned. So it will be no more than 5 years when quantum computers will be powerful enough to start hacking, but it takes time to transition your infrastructure. So it's good to start now. In fact, our company has developed things which can be done right now to protect against this. Yeah, a few years ago, people didn't take this as seriously, but now that the computers already exist, so Google and IBM and Intel, as I mentioned, already have these computers. It's just a matter of when. So that's the first thing, and the second thing is a lot of companies are starting to do small pilot projects. So like Volkswagen has partnered with Google to figure out how quantum computing could help with autonomous driving. And it's not that tomorrow they're going to switch over to quantum technologies to do this, but they're exploring small ways that this could benefit, and Google and Volkswagen would be learning this together.
Yeah. Well, I think about these two subjects, but they're really very connected. One is like the kind of the engine, the black box behind, and the other one is what we can do with it. I mean, I'm thinking, Manoj, with quantum, how much quantum will boost artificial intelligence? What are the things we can do? I mean,
Yeah, I think the good way to understand that is, being a car guy, I look at everything as a car analogy. But if AI is the engine, data is the fuel that powers the engine, and things like blockchain and quantum are sort of like turbochargers, right? The cloud is a turbocharger today. You can do AI because for $1,000 a month, you can get the brain of an insect today. In a year, for $1,000 a month, you'll get a brain of a mouse in the cloud, and in about 10 years, you will get the brain of a human being in the cloud for $1,000 a month. That much compute. So what compute is to AI today, blockchain would be to AI in terms of assurance, and then quantum would be to AI in terms of exploration, because there is a whole new class of problems that the existing one Neumann architectures in the computing today don't answer well. And I think you did a brilliant job of explaining how fertilizers and the energy and other industries are going to be transformed. So all of these I think they're going to be synergistic. They're going to be building on top of each other.
Maybe last question to both of you, and because it's of interest to the forum here. What are the opportunities for us in the financial industry or the fund industry? Maybe we'll ask Mark to start.
Sure. So one, I think this is a great opportunity to make things completely secure and hack-proof. People have come up with kind of incremental solutions before, but this is a great opportunity to use quantum technology to completely protect your data. And second, you can make things much more efficient. So Manoj mentioned AI and quantum is very powerful. And so there are so many applications that weren't even remotely possible before that can be taken advantage of now.
Great, thanks.
So kind of building on it, I would say three things. I loved, again, in the panel earlier, there's this whole talk about from knowing to understanding. I think you can use AI in a very powerful way to understand your customer at an individual level, not as a segment of 10,000 or 50,000. So really using AI to personalize and understand what that particular institution or individual is looking for. That's one, customer engagement. Second one, I think how you come up with trading ideas and how you build portfolios. I think that's going to be a fundamentally different way that AI can help you come up with creative ideas to do that. And third is how you drive operations, things like compliance or things like post-trade settlement, things like being able to partner with other people and put together new ideas. I think all of I can't think of a single process in your industry that will not be touched. It's like saying, which processes will the internet impact? All of them. So I think AI is going to do the same thing to your business. You just have to figure out which one goes first.
Yeah. Well, great. Thanks to both of you. I think, we will be talking about these subjects every year for the next few years at least. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone.